Hello everyone, I'm DSP. And welcome to my Game of the Year Awards countdown for 2022. I'm wearing silly stuff because people supported my stream today, and this is a silly thing I put on as a reward. They chose this. So anyway, welcome everyone to my personal picks for the Game of the Year Awards, or I guess you could say the best games of 2022 countdown. Now, we're going to go through a lot of games in this countdown, all right? I actually feel that 2022 was a year where there were quite a lot of great games. And although not all can be called the best, I did feel like I wanted to give a little bit of extra time today to kind of at least give some notoriety to some of the games that were my personal favorites and or games that were some of the favorites of my viewers here live on stream on DSP Gaming, or even the on-demand viewers as well. There's 15 entries, 15, but also 2 honorable mentions, which I'm going to tell you why they're honorable mentions as we tackle them first, and then we're going to head into the meat of the countdown, okay? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us go into my Game of the Year Awards countdown for 2022. Here we go. First of all, let's start with the honorable mentions. Our first honorable mention is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, all right? Even though I'm highly critical of this game, even though I've told you guys how I really disagree with the fact that this is a billion-dollar company and the game should be better, meaning the online connections should be more stable, they should be more consistent, and definitely for the amount of money that people sink into buying this game every year, it should be a better overall experience. I would be basically lying to my audience if I didn't tell you guys this game wasn't a great value, this game didn't have good graphics, responsive gameplay, and basically is one of the best packaged games of the year. You get a fun single-player campaign. You get a ton of different online modes, including competitive multiplayer, team-based multiplayer, but also solos. You also get awesome Battle Royale with Warzone 2.0. It's basically the complete package for a first-person shooter. Am I going to rank it as one of my best games of the year? No, I'm not. Why? Because it's more of the same. It's pretty much exactly what you would expect from Infinity Ward or, Treyarch. It's the same kind of suite of game content that you would get every year. But it remains consistent. It remains a good value for your dollar. And it functions. So I still got to give it some shout outs and some credit where credit is due. Even though I don't feel like it's good enough to make the best games of the year officially, I still wanted to give it some credit. Okay? So now, on to the second honorable mention nomination. And quite frankly, I almost put this into the countdown. But after really mulling it over in my head, I said, I don't think I'd be okay with doing that. You're going to see why in just a second. My second game for honorable mention as one of the best games of 2022 is the Street Fighter 6 beta. Yes, I know. Whoa, why is that clip? I guess it was lagging. Why is a beta here in my countdown for best games of the year? Because it seriously was a great beta. The 2 waves of this beta was some of the best online beta experience I had ever seen. Street Fighter 6 is stacking up to be an incredibly good, fun, and challenging and competitive fighting game. Even though, quite frankly, I'm not very good at it, okay? I still enjoyed the hell out of it, and I see the potential that this game has for being one of the best fighting games possibly ever made if it ends up living up to the expectations that this beta has created for it. It's got beautiful graphics, a responsive control system. It's got a ton of new game mechanics, but a lot of returning old ones, a good mix of characters from previous games plus new ones. Everything about this beta so far made the final game look great, okay? Admittedly, yes, I complained about some of the online connections, and there's always going to be criticisms that I have, but for the most part, the Street Fighter 6 beta made me feel incredibly positive about the full release of the game in June of 2026 when it actually does come out as a full retail release. I obviously would have been kind of dishonest saying, one of the best games of 2022. The game's not out. It was just a 2-wave of a closed beta. You know what I'm saying? But still, I wanted to give credit where credit is due. The Street Fighter 6 beta actually makes me feel incredibly hopeful that perhaps Street Fighter can come back to prominence, right? Since Street Fighter 5 really kind of sunk the franchise, hopefully Street Fighter 6 will redeem it. All right. And with that being said, the 2 honorable mentions are out of the way. And we can now head into my main picks. The top 15 best games of 2022. Cue the dramatic lighting. All right. And so, we start off at the bottom. Where else would you start? All right. The following game, a lot of people are going to disagree on me with. That's okay, because I really like this game, and some of my audience really did, and some of my audience absolutely disliked this game. But let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, number 15, my best games of the year is Disney Dreamlight Valley. Yes, that's right. Prepare for people to freak out that I said Disney Dreamlight Valley. All right? So this game is the ultimate chill, relaxing experience. If you've ever played Animal Crossing, you kind of understand what they're going for with Disney Dreamlight Valley. But the difference here is that it actually has licensed content. It actually has real characters from Disney franchises that are all interacting in this cool village-like environment. There's a ton to do. There's gardening. There's mining. There's building. There's clearing out of stuff. There's puzzles to solve. There's just quite a lot of content. If you, like, again, the whole idea of a simulation game where it's a time waster, but at the same time, it's a time waster that's fun. This is your game. Plus, this game actually has a plot. Animal Crossing, I hate to say, doesn't. And I liked Animal Crossing, don't get me wrong, but this game actually has an ongoing narrative where things are unfolding. People are getting their memories back, which they've forgotten. There's actually a character that's stuck between dimensions who you rescue. You're constantly improving and building the town, but that unlocks something new to do, a new location, a bunch of new characters that are now introduced. It's neat in that regard. I was expecting it literally to be like an Animal Crossing style game for little kids. And actually, I don't feel like it is. This game appeals to children, but at the same time, it's enough of a relaxing game that even adults who like these classic Disney characters would likely use this as a very relaxing way to enjoy gaming. The game is not in a full release. I should forewarn everyone, even though I'm saying it was in my favorite games of the year, the full release is not here yet. It's supposedly still somewhere down the line. They're adding new content. They are tweaking this game. And I will also be very honest with you, okay? I played this game actively for about 2 to 2.5 months throughout the summer and into the early fall of 2022. I took a break from it just around before Halloween. I came back to it for Christmas, and basically it wasn't fun anymore. Allow me to explain why. This game is not rife with microtransactions. This game is a grinding style game. And what that means is you have to play it a lot, and if you do, you're doing daily check-ins and you're doing daily tasks, you earn the in-game currency. You use that in-game currency to then participate in special events and the like. So for example, I was really enjoying the game throughout the summer when I was playing it a couple times a week, but then I put it on hiatus. When I came back to play this for Christmas, I couldn't do any of the content. It was like all the Christmas content had been locked behind the in-game currency, but because I hadn't played the game recently, I didn't have any. And therefore, I couldn't get any of the outfits. I couldn't build any of the special stuff. And that's really disappointing. Essentially, the game is requiring you to play it all the time in order to really make advancement. And not a lot of people are going to say, hey, you're going to do this all the time in order to earn the currency. Okay? So for me, sadly, I like the game, but I definitely think it could have been better if it had a way to kind of do more content without having to play it almost every day. But man, it was a shocking, actual good game for me. I did not expect much out of it. I played it because it was on Xbox Game Pass. When I played it, I was shocked how fun it was, and I ended up playing it for several months. So obviously, I want to give it some appreciation. However, it's way low on my list for a good reason. It's definitely not a blow your socks off kind of game. It's a chill game, but it's a good one. Okay, and now that my stream chat is in full revolt, because they're very upset with me that I would put a game like that on my countdown. That's why it's top 15, by the way, folks, because I put games like that in there. All right, now we can head more into more mainstream games. All right, and I think you guys will start to agree a lot more with the upcoming entries rather than that one. I knew a lot of people were going to give me crap for that, but that's why I wanted to put it at the beginning of the countdown. Okay. Okay. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, number 14. Best game of the year is Gotham Knights. Now, I already talked about Gotham Knights, remember? Wow, look at that video lag. I already talked about Gotham Knights in my most disappointing games countdown. And a lot of people might say, how could Gotham Knights be both in the best and worst games countdowns? All right? Here's why. Because it's not the worst games countdown. It's the most disappointing. And if you actually watched that video before this one, you would know what my gripes are. Allow me to reiterate. I like the gameplay of this game. Each character of the 4 Gotham Knights is unique. They all have different abilities, different outfits, different specialties. One's good at stealth, one's good at hacking, one's good at melee, one's good at long-range combat with the guns. They all have different unique ways to traverse the city, and they all have their own unique plot lines and personalities as they interact with each other. The game has cool villains from the Batman lore that you get to do cool plot lines with and epic boss fights with. Gotham City itself is kind of interesting. You re-explore places like Arkham Asylum or the street where Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered and stuff like that. A lot of that cool stuff is in the game, and if you're a fan of Batman, you're probably going to enjoy this game, despite the fact it definitely doesn't play like the Arkham series. It doesn't. It's its own unique thing in Gotham Knights, okay? A cool, unique scenario. What happens if Batman were to actually be defeated and pass away? How would his proteges, who he's trained all this time, be able to pick up the mantle and defend Gotham City, and would they be successful at it? All right? I really like that idea, and I think it translated well into a video game. So why did so many people hate on this game, and why is it so low on my countdown? You're seeing it right now. The game runs horribly. And the thing is, this game is only on current gen. It's only on PS5, Xbox Series S and X. It doesn't have PS4, Xbox One, or even Switch versions. So if that's the case, why does this game run so poorly? Why is the frame rate so choppy? I don't know. If it actually had beautiful graphics and ran nice and smooth, I actually feel like this would have been way high up on my list of games of the year because I actually liked the game that much. But for whatever reason, the game devs were unable to get this game engine to run well, and it's choppy and just not satisfying as a game that you're paying full retail price for in 2022. So, great gameplay, great story, interesting world design, tons of content, unique characters, and a game engine that runs like choppy, flip book crap. That's why it's so low on the list. But overall, graphics aren't everything. I had a great time with this game, and I enjoyed the playthrough. If you haven't seen it, I actually urge you to give it a look, especially, again, if you're a fan of Batman. I think that this is a game that you shouldn't overlook because they actually did a really good job with the whole premise of it, okay? A lot of people panned that game and basically said that it wasn't very good. I completely disagree. I actually think that it was a really good game, and that's why I wanted to give it some credit here today. By the way, if you can hear, the Gotham police are outside my place right now. They're actually coming to arrest me for saying that the game was good. I think they're going away now. Okay. All right, so let's move on. My number 13 best game of 2022 is High on Life. That is right. The game that is made by the same people who make Rick and Morty. A game that is incredibly unique because of its visual style and because of its writing. Its gunplay, surprisingly enough, actually plays like a classic first-person shooter from the 90s. Think Duke Nukem. Think Quake or Unreal. It actually plays like an old-school game like that. And I actually really enjoyed it because they didn't try to go too crazy or too complex with the gameplay elements. Instead, they focused a lot on the world design, the exploration mechanics, and some of the writing. Now, admittedly, I did not absolutely love this game. There's moments in the game that I feel are tedious, and I actually feel like that humor that they go for, that Rick and Morty style humor, sometimes goes too far. There's 1 or 2 points in the game where they go over the top with the gross out humor or the sexual humor. I get it. It's you made a joke, but then they beat that joke to death into a pile of mush. You're like, okay, that's kind of what happens also in Rick and Morty sometimes. But I would say more times rather than not, I was really enjoying the game, having a great time with it. I enjoyed the playthrough. It has a good story. The only thing I can say, though, it's a great Game Pass game. It's not a good game to buy. If you have an Xbox console and you get Game Pass, play High on Life. Don't miss out on it. But I would not recommend it as a purchase. Why? It was a fully priced game when it came out, and the game is arguably only 10 to 12 hours long. Even if you're doing all the content, it's still only 10 or 12 hours long. So I would definitely not say, hey, buy this game for full retail price. But if you have Game Pass, it's kind of a don't miss. I feel like it's a really cool experience. Unique guns that each talk. Each one has its own personality. A plot line that's kind of funny, at the same time kind of serious. Again, that Rick and Morty style humor. You don't really see that often. Kind of reminds me of Serious Sam. You ever play that game? A game that it has that really ridiculous, over-the-top humor, doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the very same time, it's quite fun to play. That's how I would compare this game. And again, please don't skip it just because you heard things. I think it's actually worth checking out and playing. Okay? All right. High on Life's good stuff. 2 thumbs up, as long as you don't pay $60 for it. Okay. Continuing on. Now we're going to start to head into games that I feel like people will... Well, let me put it this way. There's some games coming up here that I felt I definitely wanted to say were some of the best of the year, but I think everyone feels a little different. Seriously, I do. I think everyone has like different rankings. So just going through these next few games, I'm curious how many of you will agree with me and how many are going to be like, nah, we'll see. All right? But up next, my number 12 most liked game of the year is Horizon Forbidden West. Now, I like a lot about this game, and there's some things about this game I dislike. What do I like about it? Let's be honest, the graphics are freaking amazing. The game looked absolutely gorgeous on the PlayStation 5. I've actually heard the PS4 version still looks really good. It's just a lower frame rate. The enemies, way more variety of enemies in this one than there was in the first game. The environments are gorgeous. They put a lot of time and effort into developing the different cultures and peoples of the world. They all have these different belief systems. They act differently. They dress differently. It's kind of interesting to kind of get more into the belief systems of the people of the world of Horizon rather than just worrying about combat and survival. The plot line is good for the most part. I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't really like the ending. I feel like the ending was kind of very disappointing. That the ending of the first game kind of left you with this feeling of, oh, hope and interesting. And this game, kind of the ending wasn't as good, in my opinion. In addition, there's definitely some shortcomings of the game that I have to call out that I feel is why this didn't make the top 10. All right? Number 1, the open world is nice and gorgeous. But it seems to me like when they were designing this world, they had 2 dev teams working on this game. One dev team was working on the story. One dev team was working on the side content. And it's basically the job of the game director to try to put the 2 together in a cohesive way. And they did a very poor job at this. I'll give you a couple examples. There were a couple times in the game when I was exploring open world and I came across a village. People in this village have their own plot. They have a story. You do a series of missions for them to defend them from an invasion or whatever it may be. It takes 2 hours to complete this quest line. Oh, that's great. You complete the quest line, they give you an item. The item is crap. It's not good compared to what you already have. You're basically like, wow, this was my reward for 2 hours of gameplay. That's underwhelming. And then come to find out, literally, it didn't matter if you ever did that quest line or not. It didn't factor into the main plot. You don't use the reward item. What did you waste your time for? Right? And that's how I felt several times during this game doing side content. That it was just superfluous. It was meant to pad the game. That if you turbo through the story, maybe it's like 15, 20 hours long. But they wanted to say they had a 40-hour game. So they literally added in a ton of different style stories and gameplay, but it doesn't factor into the game at all. All right? Another example of this. In the original Horizon game, there were special dungeons called cauldrons. And what they were special challenge dungeons where you had to do a bunch of platforming, puzzles, and also combat. At the end, there was a boss at the end of each one that was kind of unique. And if you completed each cauldron, then you would get a big reward. Usually, it was like a weapon or a piece of armor, or in some cases, the ability to hack one of the unique enemies in the environment. So now that enemy essentially is not a threat to you anymore. That's really cool. In this game, the cauldrons still exist. But after going through this very challenging puzzle-filled dungeon and beating a super boss at the end, you get literally nothing. The game says, oh, you can hack that enemy. If now you go out in the environment and you do a repetitive amount of hunting, killing a bunch of enemies, hoping that those enemies drop RNG generated items, and if they happen to drop those items, then you can come back and craft the device that will hack that certain enemy. Why is it that in the first game, all you had to do was complete the challenging dungeon and boss fight, but in this one, not only do you have to beat the challenging dungeon and boss fight, but now you have to grind for hours on end and hope for luck to get the items you need to get your reward. I hate to say it, it's incredibly badly designed. It seems to me like what they were trying to do was make the game more immersive and have more content that they felt was meaningful or mandatory, and it ended up being just the opposite. When you tell me I have to waste more and more time to get a reward, I'm more apt to not do it. I'd rather just continue on with the main plot. And in reality, the main plot of the game is the best part of the game. If you actually do a lot of the side content, it's not that good. And I feel like it is underwhelming. So here's the thing. I like Horizon Forbidden West. I would be doing the game a disservice to not mention it here in my Game of the Year awards. It's got great writing. It's got interesting characters. It's got beautiful graphics. It's got uniquely designed civilizations of people. It's got a great open world. But when you veer from the path of the main story and you start doing the side content, you start to see how shallow that open world really is, and that most of it is basically just superfluous to anything meaningful in the game, and the ending is really bad in my opinion. So those two factors alone made it to me that basically it wasn't going to be as high up on the countdown as maybe I thought it might have been when I was playing through the game. Still a great game, but it doesn't make my top 10. It's only number 12. All right, already there's some people completely disagreeing with me in the chat, and they already said that they're coming to my house to beat me up. So just so you know, I've opened all the trapdoors. The moat around my home has now been deployed. The man-eating sharks are in there. And once I start hearing you guys chanting outside for you know, my demise, I'm going to unleash the hounds. I'm ready to do it. Okay? All right. Anyway, no, it was not Kat's favorite game this year, Cracker Jacks. Absolutely not. It was not. And she thought maybe it would be. But when she beat the game too, she agreed with me. She did not like that ending. So, okay. Let's continue, everyone, as we get into the almost top 10. Our next game entry, again, might be one that kind of shocks people. I'm not sure. All right. My number 11 most favorite game of 2022 was A Plague Tale Requiem. Okay. So this game is the follow-up to a shockingly good indie game from several years ago. It's a game based in a world where everything is infected with a plague. Rats are eating everyone alive, and there's an interesting plot line where a sister and her little brother are involved in it because the little brother apparently has the ability to control these rats. The first game basically ended on a really high note where at the end of the game, the brother has gained some control over this supernatural ability, and it seems like things are getting better. The sequel says, to hell with all of that, everything's much worse. The control is wearing off, the rats are invading and killing everyone. You end up going way more interesting places in this one than in the first game. You end up exploring, you end up basically going all around and going to other islands, other civilizations. You've learned more about the lore and the story of this ability to control the rats and what exactly the plague really is. The gameplay elements are more advanced. There's actually way more to the gameplay of this game than there was in the first game. All right. The graphics, as you can see, are gorgeous. I'm actually going to scoot back a little bit because that's actually kind of a critical plot point there. I don't want to spoil that. Here we go. And overall, I really enjoyed the game. I thought that it was a great outing. I actually enjoyed this game more than the first because it is longer. It has more content. I do feel that the gameplay elements were better than the first game. The graphics were better than the first game. And overall, it's a very good game, except, yet again, I didn't really like the ending. I thought that the ending, although the ending does have potential for a sequel, and there really is some sequel bait in that ending there. I felt like after doing all these things that you did in the game, that there should have been maybe a better ending, that you didn't really get that. However, I really enjoyed the experience. I thought that it was well designed. Again, you have to remember something. This is an indie studio that made the game. This is not a AAA studio. You'd be looking at these graphics right now and be like, well, definitely a AAA studio made this game, right? No. This is an indie studio, a small-time group of game developers that make this Plague Tale series. So it kind of blows me away that it looks so good, plays so well. I will say this one definitely had some annoying bugs. There was actually some situations where my follower would disappear from the game entirely. And a couple times where like bugs made it impassable and I had to kind of reload. But for the most part, it was still an outstanding game. I absolutely loved it. I think if you like the first game, you're definitely going to like this one. It's kind of a must-play if you played the first one, in my opinion. I just didn't really like the fact that the ending ended the way it did, but I can't really elaborate on that without spoiling the entire game for all of you, okay? So Plague Tale Requiem, a good game, a fun experience. I give it a thumb up or 2 thumbs up, but doesn't crack my top 10 favorite games of the year. Okay, now we are going to get to my top 10 favorite games of the year. All right, so prepare your butts for controversy and major disagreements, although quite possibly, I think most of these games, most people would agree with me. I think a couple you're not going to, but hey, that's why it's my top 10 and not yours. Again, guys, remember, you have the ability to disagree. I'm perfectly fine with that. I would love for you to leave some comments on this video and let me know if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Are there points that I left out? Are there games that I'm leaving out? Or do you think that I put games on this list that don't deserve to be on it? Please share your thoughts in the comments. We can have a nice dialogue about that at a later date. Okay? All right. Here we go. Number 10. Best game of 2022 is Sonic Frontiers. Yes. And I know a lot of people will have issue with this choice. But the bottom line is, I'm a Sonic fan. It's been a very long time since we had a good Sonic game. 3D Sonic game, I should say. Because I would say that, Sonic Mania was an outstanding game for sure. But it's been so effing long since we had a Sonic game that you could be proud of and not cringe at and not say that it was a ripoff and a waste of money. And I feel that Sonic Frontiers is a good game. All right? Is it a perfect game? Absolutely not. This game has a lot of flaws, a lot of shortcomings, as you can see just in the little bit of gameplay that I selected. Are there puzzles to solve? Yes. Is there traversal? Some platforming challenges? Yes. But even now you can look around and be like, that environment looks a little empty, right? And that's the thing. They were really experimenting. They were experimenting here with basically a game that was an open world Sonic, which had never really been done before. Almost every Sonic game previous had always been either on rails or a very linear experience. This game basically turned it into something a lot different, all right? And it was an experiment. Kind of like how I had said earlier, how Pokemon Legends Arceus, in my most disappointing games countdown, felt like an experiment. This definitely feels like an experiment as well, but it feels like a more complete experiment than Arceus did. Arceus really felt like, oh, let's make a game out of a tech demo. This felt like, let's make a tech demo that could be a game, but maybe is the first start of something that's much better at a later date. So I actually really like this game, but I don't love it. I think that the boss fights are interesting and unique. They're kind of like giant kaiju monsters, which is kind of fun. I definitely liked, the plot of the game made an effort to tie into the lore of many different previous Sonic games, which is unique, because guess what? A lot of games don't do that. A lot of games kind of ignore their past. This game isn't afraid to discuss the past and act like it really existed. That was cool. But the game definitely had shortcomings. Number one, the graphics. They run pretty well on the Xbox Series X, but sometimes they chop up, and sometimes there are issues with pop-in and other things like that, and that's an issue. Number two, the world is open but kind of empty. Yes, there's constant platforming challenges and collectibles, but outside of that, there's not a ton going on in the world. Again, it feels like this is the start of something good, and if they put a lot more time and polish into a future game, it could actually be insanely great, over-the-top amazing. This game is great, but it's not over-the-top amazing, and it's basically inflated And why is the opinion inflated? Because there's been so many bad Sonic games. If there weren't so many bad Sonic games in the last decade, you might look at this game and be like, hey, it ain't so good. But this is the best we've gotten in about 10 years. Like, the last great 3D Sonic game I could think about was Sonic Generations. So, obviously, that makes you kind of feel a lot happier when a game that doesn't suck comes out, right? Again, you could completely disagree with me on this one, and that's totally okay. But for me, I actually really enjoyed Sonic Frontiers. I'm happy that there was a game that was passable as a digestible and fun 3D Sonic game, that we weren't just sitting here cringing or complaining about how it was a ripoff. It didn't feel like that to me. I just wish that it ran better and had some more meaningful content. I mean, by the time you're at that last world, yeah, the game basically definitely feels repetitive and like you've done everything in it, and it definitely could be better. But doesn't mean it's a bad game. In fact, I disagree if you said it was a bad game. I just think that it could be improved, and it will be much better with another future iteration. So I hope they use this formula in the future. Okay. Sonic Frontiers. Some people actually agree with me. Some people are very upset with me right now. Seriously, some people are significantly upset. Fens, put down the voodoo doll. I saw you committing a voodoo ritual. You were trying to poke me for my review. No. That's going too far. All right. Stop that right now, Fens. Okay. Let's continue on. Number 9. Best game of the year, in my opinion. Ready? Here comes another controversial one. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. Number 9. MultiVersus. Yes. A fighting game is my pick for number 9 best game of the year. MultiVersus is a game that attempts to take the party almost arena style combat of Smash Brothers and turn it into something a little different. It combines all the properties of Warner Brothers into a unique gameplay experience. It's good. It's not a party game by any means. Last year, there was a Nickelodeon game that came out that people thought might be the spiritual successor to Smash Brothers. It sucked ass. This game is actually quite good in its competitive nature, in its balance, in its rebalancing. It's got a head game developer that literally listens to feedback daily on Twitter, and he has actively improved and changed this game since it released in the summer to make it better. The game has great graphics. The game has really unique and engaging gameplay, both if you're a more casual gamer or if you want to get into the seriousness of it being a competitive game. I feel that the game is really, really good. I actually also really like the cast, combining superheroes from the DC universe with characters from Scooby-Doo, with other tried and true television shows like Adventure Time or Steven Universe. It's a really unique concept. And overall, I will say this, for the most part, the online connections held up and were never really atrociously terrible. But sometimes when I played Smash Brothers, man, it was like almost impossible to get a match that wasn't laggy as hell. In this game, it's not that bad a lot of the time, and when there is lag, a lot of the times you can visibly see it, so you realize if you're in a laggy connection or not. The 2v2 aspect is kind of fun. I like the fact that the main focus of the game is 2v2 teams, but at the same time, the solos also has picked up some traction in the competitive community. Did you know that MultiVersus was the most popular fighting game of 2022? It was. It got more attention. It had more people downloading and playing it. It had more people watching it at EVO than any other game. So it had the popularity, and it's continuing to be successful to this day. They're still regularly putting out new characters on basically like a monthly basis, like maybe 2 characters a month or something like that. Again, they're constantly rebalancing it. Now, some people crap on it, saying that it's a Smash Brothers clone. I beg to differ. I don't feel it's a Smash Brothers clone. It actually doesn't have a lot of the things that Smash Brothers has or evolved into. There's no super moves. There's no like major items and things that you're really dealing with on the screen. As you can see, basically what it is, it's like old school Smash almost. Before they added in all the bells and whistles that overcomplicated Smash Brothers, that's kind of what it feels like. Now the thing is, I absolutely loved this game to the point where I played it for almost 3 months, and I was learning it at a competitive level. Every time I played, I was getting big strings of wins. But sadly, I hate to say this, I don't feel like my audience is an audience that's so much into competitive fighting games if it's not something that's like Street Fighter, okay? I noticed that sadly, after like a month of playing it, people lost interest. And so that's why I don't play it anymore. It's not because I don't like it. It's not because it's not a competitive game. It's not because it's not fun to play or they don't put out enough content or it's not balanced. It just basically wasn't very entertaining for my audience to watch. And I am a full-time content creator. I've got to put out content that entertains my audience. So after playing this for several months and enjoying it a lot, my audience said that's enough for us. And I was like, well, it is what it is. I guess we got to move on. But I love this game. I still to this day follow some of the community and I see what they're talking about when it comes to new character releases and things like that. And I'm like, wow, it's pretty neat. They're still doing this actively. There's still new characters. They're still balancing. There's fun skins and everything. I think they did a really good job with it. And I think you could have some pretty good longevity. Again, Smash Brothers stopped the developing. There's no more patches for it, really. There's no new characters, nothing. They're done. So this game kind of took up the reins and filled in that gap of a game that people were looking for this style of game. What do they call it? The platform fighter. And I really enjoyed it. So thanks for anyone who watched me play MultiVersus in 2022. Sad that, you know, it didn't work out long term, but I really do enjoy the game. Okay. Let's continue on. More controversy, right? My number 8 favorite game or most liked game of 2022 is Kirby and the Forgotten Land. A lot of people forgot that this game even existed because it came out earlier in the year. I think it was March. And when it came out, it was actually very highly rated. Everyone who played it really loved it. And then everyone kind of forgot about it, all right? Kirby and the Forgotten Land is essentially the Super Mario Odyssey of the Kirby universe. It takes a lot of modernized gameplay elements and combines it with the classic Kirby formula. Great graphics, fun gameplay elements, new enemies, a unique plot, and an incredible amount of content. The game is quite long for an action platformer of its kind. I had a ton of fun playing it. I absolutely loved it. And I usually don't do this, but I actually was challenging the end game optional post-game super boss, and I almost beat it. So, if anything, that's a testament to the fact of how much I liked the game. Just to show you guys some gameplay elements. Again, it's Kirby, but it's Kirby combined with modern things. You know, there's open kind of exploration of each of these worlds. Each world has a lot of secrets and things to do. And the thing is, traditionally, Kirby is kind of a really easy game, right? It's supposed to be meant for, like, little kids. And admittedly, this game, if you just play it at face value, is very easy. However, the game has just enough amount of secrets, hidden challenges, fun extra optional puzzles, and hidden boss fights that I feel that even if you're not a kid, you're still going to enjoy this game if you just like platformers in general, or if you have actually been a fan of the Kirby franchise all along, you're probably really going to like this game. It's not just about challenge, it's about a lot of other factors. Fun factor is huge in this game. Even though, again, it might not be the most challenging thing you've ever done, okay? But, man, I was shocked. I was surprised. I didn't think a Kirby game would be this good. Considering the previous games I had played in the series, remember, I played Kirby's Epic Yarn. Now, that game, you want to talk about an easy Kirby game. Kirby's Epic Yarn is one of the easiest games I've probably ever played in my 15-year history as a YouTuber. But, man, this game is well done, okay? Now, it's funny. People want me to address a rage quit. So, here's what happened. I beat the entire game. I unlocked all this optional content. I did all the optional content. This is challenge arena and all of that. And then finally, at the very, very, very end of the game, there's a secret super boss. I beat that. And then if you do all of that, there's a final secret challenge at the end of the game that comes after an insanely grinding style gauntlet. And basically, it's very tough, okay? It's almost Dark Souls level tough. It's not Dark Souls level, but it's kind of on that level of like gauntlet style. Oh my God, you know, got to really play hard to do it. The thing was, at that time, I basically wasn't interested in really doing that. Like, I feel like my viewing audience was pressuring me to do it, but I was kind of like, I'm already done. I've done everything in the game. No one's going to care if I beat the final super boss of Kirby or not. Like, literally, no one will give a crap if I complete this, including me. But my viewers were egging me on, so I said I would do it. And basically, I got really frustrated at this final, ultimate, hidden super boss that literally unlocks nothing. It's just there for a final, like, game challenge. And I tried for a while to beat it, and I ran out of time. I actually didn't have any more time to take on that boss. That stream had to end. And so I quit. And people, oh, he rage quit. It's like, fine. I don't care if you say I rage quit. The ultimate endgame super boss of Kirby, who cares? That's on you to care. I don't. I played the game. I loved it. It's like I said, it's my number 8 favorite game of 2022, right? So there you go. It wasn't like I rage quit the game in the middle. I beat the entirety of the game, saw all the meaningful content. This was a boss you already fought, but it comes back in a better form for this like super boss endgame challenge, and that's what I didn't finish. Okay? Still love the game. Number 8 favorite game of the year. All right. Continuing on. Oh, wow. I guarantee you our next one, a lot of people will disagree with me. And I actually also feel that some people won't even remember this game. But for me, it's my number 7 favorite game of the year. Are you ready for this? All right, ladies and gentlemen. My number 7 favorite game of 2022 is called Midnight Fight Express. It's a little game where you're a guy who beats the crap out of everything. As you can see, it has this unique camera angle perspective. Kind of reminds me of like Hotline Miami, but it's really meant to be hand-to-hand combat rather than gunplay. Although admittedly, as you get further into the game, there's a lot of gunplay, and you actually have to master gunplay in order to do well at it. But this game is very well designed. First of all, I have to call this out. You ready? This game was developed by one person. What? One person made this. Now, I'm sure they probably got gameplay assets and things from other companies or whatever, but can you believe that you have a game made by a single person, right? It's an indie game. It's quite fun. It's got a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor. It's got a lot of references to pop culture. Like, for example, I remember distinctly in this stage, they make a reference to game devs who sadly force all of their dev teams to work paid overtime and crunch and everything. Like, they literally rip them a new one and make jokes about it. And they say, hey, you're stuck here. You have to wear your jammies and have a pillow fight. There it is. There's the joke. I actually just found the joke right there. See that? A 300-hour AAA game. You guys have to crunch and stay here, and you can't go home. You have to stay here, so wear your jammies and have a pillow fight so you can stay awake to develop the game, right? So the thing is, the game is quite fun. It has many different gameplay styles. It's got hand-to-hand combat. It's got gunplay. It's got a wide variety of enemies you fight over the game. As you play the game, your combat abilities develop, and you end up from just being like kung fu hand-to-hand, you turn it into you're using weapons, you're using grapples, you're using like spear, you're using all kinds of stuff in your environment to survive. And even though you can argue the graphical engine is kind of basic, I'll agree there. I think everything else about the game is great. The soundtrack is kicking and upbeat and exciting. The gameplay is varied. The plot is an interesting mystery story that you don't understand until the very end of the game. It keeps you guessing, right? There's a ton of awesome stuff in this game that I really like. Is it challenging? Absolutely it is. Some people actually said it was quite hard. I didn't find it quite hard, but maybe it's because I've played a lot of these games in the past, or maybe it's because of the other game that I played this year, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But anyway, I really liked it. For a game made by one dude, I'm shocked that it's as good as it is. It's like way better than it deserves to be. It's a really good time. And I have very few things to complain about it. Like, I'm trying to think, like, maybe there was 1 or 2 times where there was some annoyances. Like, I remember there was a boss fight, but at the same time, there was a way you could cheaply die instantly during the boss fight. And that was a little annoying. But for the most part, I absolutely, positively loved Midnight Fight Express. If you haven't checked it out yet, I strongly recommend you do. It actually is on Game Pass, or was. I hope it still is, because I would like more people to actually check out this game. I think a lot of people kind of skipped it, not really hearing about it, or thinking, oh, it's just an indie game, so it's not a big deal. It's actually quite a good game that I hope you at least give a shot if you like this style of game. You know, combat, the odds are against you, using all kinds of combat abilities in your environment to survive, funny writing and humor, some brutality. It's all really good. All right, so Midnight Fight Express, thumbs up to this game dev. Huge kudos for pumping out a game on a one-man dev team that's this good. And I hope that more people will actually give it a look now that I've mentioned it. I hope. Okay. Now, funny, because going along the same line of that last entry, we've got another game that some people might argue is very similar. I say it's not. It's a game that has some unique gameplay elements, some good graphics, and actually was one of the games that I played earlier on in the year that most people have forgotten even existed, because then so many high-profile releases came out right after it that it just got swept under the rug. But for me, this is a game that stayed in my mind all year, And to this day, I still think it was one of the better gameplay experiences and more unique gameplay experiences that I've had. Ladies and gentlemen, my number 6 best game of 2022 is Sifu. Not seafood. Sifu. Some people like to say seafood. It's not seafood. All right? It is basically... Oh, wow. This is the whole boss fight? I thought that I... Okay, hold on. There we go. So basically, here's Sifu. It's Kung Fu. Alright? That's like the easiest way to describe it. But it's like a really unique game premise. Where you start off as a young Kung Fu guy trying to avenge, you know, his family. And you're fighting gangs. You're fighting bosses. You're hunting down people who used to be part of this gang that basically was the reason why, you know, your sensei was murdered. And it has that unique kind of Kung Fu plot line. But then as you play it, you realize there's all these unique gameplay mechanics to it. First of all, the hand-to-hand combat is great. The counter system is very responsive. And although you're fighting a ton of enemies all at once, you realize that actually it's very viable to do pretty crazy things. Fight a ton of enemies at once you get the hang of the controls and everything. As you play through the game, you get better abilities that make you a better fighter. But the really unique thing about the game is the whole aging aspect. You know, the longer that you play, and the more you die, the older you get. And then sometimes you can actually get some age back, which is kind of weird. Like, you could become younger depending on how well you do. The older you get, basically, the slower you are. But at the same time, you do more damage. But it's kind of a unique trade-off. It's hard to really explain without playing the game. Let's put it that way. But it's kind of a really unique way to tackle this kind of hand-to-hand combat game. The story is great. It kind of reminds me of the story of Kill Bill, where... you know, the protagonist was hunting down this group of assassins who essentially had killed, you know, her family. Well, in this one, you're trying to hunt down this group of assassins who I guess had killed your sensei. You're out for revenge. You're trying to take out the evil elements of the city. It's neat. The graphics are good. I mean, right now, I'm really not doing it justice in a menu here. So let me see if I can get out of the menu. But here we go. The graphics of the game have a unique art style. The boss fights are epic and cinematic. They remind me kind of like Dark Souls boss fights, although a lot of them have to do with particular gameplay elements. There's a unique dodging system that I really liked. It's like a high-low dodge, so you can like go back, like kind of dodge backwards, almost like a bullet time dodge. You could hop over things. I've never really seen a dodging system in a game like this before, and it really, when it's implemented very well as long as you can master it. And that's the thing. A lot of people said, oh, Sifu's way too hard. But if you actually learn the system, it's actually not hard at all. Actually, once you learn the system, it kind of like a free-flowing thing. I actually ended up not only beating the game, but I beat it the secret way, where you beat it just by exhausting your opponents rather than beating them up. Like, I beat the final boss without ever hitting him. Okay? And you can do that. It's kind of neat. So, Sifu, great game, unique art style, great gameplay elements, good story. Again, an indie-style game that excelled this year. I actually feel like this year, a lot of the smaller games were actually some of the best ones, and I'm happy about that. That actually I played enough of them. Especially, you know what? Because of Game Pass as well, I feel like I played a lot more of these style of games, and that's a good thing for sure, because I feel like a lot of times I miss out on these smaller titles, and this year I didn't really miss out on them, and that's a great thing. So, Sifu, thumbs up. Absolutely enjoyed it. By the way, Anso Kamaru just said, I've actually played over 100 hours of Sifu. They had a lot of challenges to the game. There's actually more DLC coming soon for it. So it definitely has its community. People really liked the game. I actually hope that it did so well that maybe they'll make future games. I don't know, it doesn't have to be a sequel to this one, but I certainly would like to see them make more games because this one was really, really good. Okay? Cool. All right, so guys, now we're heading to the big ones, because now it's the final countdown, ladies and gentlemen. 5 games that I feel were the best games of 2022. All right? Many of you are going to disagree, and many of you are going to agree, and that's okay. However, I must ask, please stop climbing the walls of my house. I can hear you guys scurrying up the side of the front of my home, and I don't want you in here. That's not right. Okay? Stop trying to storm my house because you disagree with me. Okay. The number 5 best game of the year for me. Get ready for the robble. If you know what I mean. Ladies and gentlemen, for me, the 5th best game of the year is Callisto Protocol. Yes, the Callisto Protocol. I really like this game. I don't know why so many people hated it. It's a really good survival horror game. I think it's like a very well, it's a very well designed survival horror game. It's scary. It's challenging. It's unique. Okay. It's got a lot of Dead Space elements in it. It's by the original makers of Dead Space who went on after they were laid off and Visceral Games was basically broken apart by EA. They went on to make their own game. This game is great. I had a ton of fun with it. All right. Yes, it's very challenging. It's unforgiving. You absolutely need to learn a unique combat engine in order to succeed at it. But I loved it. And I actually felt like the writing was good. The plot kept you on the edge of your seat trying to figure out exactly what, was going on in the game. By the end of the game, man, you can't mess around. Because a lot of these survival horror games, it's all about the gunplay. This game is literally the opposite. In this game, it's not about the gunplay at all. It's about mastering the melee system and finding ways around things and being non-violent or using your abilities. For example, like you just saw the grip gun there, or the grip glove, to throw the enemies around. If you're just focused primarily on the gunplay, you're going to hate this game. And I actually think that's why a lot of game developers hated this game. They were expecting a Dead Space-like experience or a game where it's all about gunning, and it's definitely not about that. I would say actually the guns are quite underpowered in this game, while using other things like that grip is your best way to success. Also, stealth is a humongous part of the game, which a lot of people are not very good at. So basically those two combination factors, a unique melee system you have to master, stealth, and gunplay kind of being weak, made so many people crap on the game. But I really like Callisto Protocol. The graphics aren't perfect, but they still look... Okay. Okay. The graphics aren't perfect, but they still look pretty good. And the story was good. Like I said, actually the acting as well. Actually having some real life actors doing the mocap and play the characters in the game added to the game as well. What I would say is if you like survival horror and you appreciate games that try to do things differently and you're okay with challenge, then Callisto Protocol will be your kind of game. But I think a lot of people got casualized with horror games over the years, and when they played this, it was just too much for them. I heard, mainstream content creators were rage quitting 2 hours in. I have no idea why. There's literally nothing in this game that would make me rage quit. There's some frustrating parts for sure that I criticized, but man, I can't imagine why people were pussing out. I really think it was because they wanted a shock reaction from their audience and to join in this bandwagon mentality saying Callisto Protocol wasn't a great game. I completely disagree. I think that those people were just trying to get more out of the game than they thought they would by continuing to play it, and therefore they all ran on that same bandwagon of hate on the game. I don't think it deserved any hate at all. I actually think it was an outstanding survival horror game. It's my number 5 favorite game of the year. By the way, the game has more than 5 enemies in it. It has more than a dozen. People just make it up because they're full of crap. The funny part is the criticisms this game was hit with, if you combine them with any other game, they also apply. You can combine the same criticisms to this game as Elden Ring. But people don't want to do that. Instead, they just want to unfairly say this game is bad, but every other game is good because they were joining the bandwagon. Don't be a sheep. If you're interested in survival horror, I strongly recommend you check out the game. It was really well done, in my opinion. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now in the top 4. All right? Top 4. Why am I delaying? Let's just do it. My number 4 favorite game of the year is Pokemon Scarlet. Pokemon Scarlet basically took the experiment that was done in Pokemon Legends Arceus and turned it into a full-fledged Pokemon game with gyms, with open world challenges, Titan Pokemon, a Team Star plotline where you're taking on entire camps of Pokemon and enemies. It's got a good variety of Pokemon that have never been seen before, combined with a good selection of classic Pokemon. It's got basically everything going for it, except the graphics. Amazing music, great plot, interesting character writing. But for some odd reason, the graphics don't hold up. And that's a problem. The graphics of this game are absolutely terrible. There's choppiness, there's frame drops, there's pop in, there's characters that walk like this until you walk closer to them, and then all of a sudden they fully animate. There's no excuse for this. We already talked about it in my most disappointing games countdown. This is actually the most disappointing game of 2022 for me. Why? Because literally every other aspect of this game is outstanding. This is the best plot I've ever experienced in a Pokemon game. Hands down. But the game runs like shit. This game would likely be top 3 for me if it was a better looking game. But for some reason, Game Freak / the Pokemon Company insist on pumping out 2 or 3 Pokemon games in 1 year, and it resulted in this game looking inferior. Like everything else excelled except the graphics. And that actually gets to me. When you have a game that's so fun, every moment I'm playing it, I'm enjoying playing it with my audience, we're interacting, we're talking about the Pokemon and the different elements, you know what I'm saying? It's such a good time. And then every time you're walking around the open world and something pops in or loads poorly or it's chopping up, you cringe. Like, oh, the pain of a game that didn't develop well for various reasons. You know what I mean? I really, really wish that it was a better game. But it's still number 4 of my favorite games of the year. I seriously think it's the best Pokemon game I've ever played in the 15 years that I've been doing YouTube content. I think it's the best one. So I hope that you guys feel the same. And if not, you guys probably hate my guts, but it's all right. Pokemon Scarlet, my number 4 favorite game of the year. And now there were 3. Okay? I think what we should do is we should go through the games without telling you the order, and I should actually tell you what I like and don't like about each game. I think that will build more suspense than me just saying number 3, number 2, number 1. All right? So let's talk about my top 3 games of the year in no particular order. I'll tell you what I like about them, and then I'll actually rate them in order. Okay? Okay. So, the first game that's in my top 3 games of the year this year, this is not going to be a shocking surprise to anyone. It's God of War Ragnarok. All right? The follow-up to the 2018 Game of the Year pick for me. A game that advances that plot line in a huge way, but adds in so many cool new improvements. First of all, the ability to not only play as Kratos again, but also to play as Atreus. That's huge. And to be able to alternate between the characters at various points of the game is obviously a ginormous plus. I like that variety in the game. The continued use of puzzles, platforming, and gameplay elements, but adding in new things. You know, in God of War 2018, Kratos has 2 weapons. In this one, eventually he has 3. That's awesome. You know, customizable armor sets. Really awesome. Now, without spoiling, there's more than just the team of Kratos and Atreus, and that's a good addition. Excuse me. I like the fact that it's not just about those 2, but now you have other characters who actually can be controlled in combat as well. That's really neat, and I really enjoyed that. This game has an exceptional amount of story and content. All right, if you're just focusing on the main story, you're probably talking 20 to 30 hours long. But if you do all the side content, you're talking over 40 hours of content. My playthrough was 63 hours long, and I did everything. I fought every optional boss. I did every optional dungeon. Everything completed, essentially, 63 hours. That's insane. Look at how good the game looks on PlayStation 5. Absolutely beautiful and outstanding. The plot, oh my God. One of my favorite plots of any game I've played in the 15 years I've been a YouTuber, for sure. A game that actually has distinct and interesting character development. There's some characters in God of War Ragnarok that over the course of the game become better people, right? We will be better. We must be better. There's some characters over the course of God of War Ragnarok that start off good and end up being evil at the end. That's cool. That's character development. Give me that in a game, right? A lot of games to this day don't do that, or they do it in such a cliche, crappy way that it's not fun. This game absolutely hits it on all cylinders when it comes to plot, graphics, gameplay, you know, music. Bear McCreary soundtrack with the hurdy-gurdy. Unique. You're not going to hear that anywhere else, and it's really, really well implemented in this game. Like, I could go on. I could keep telling you the many, many reasons why I absolutely love God of War Ragnarok, okay? But what I would say is watch the playthrough. 63 hours of gaming goodness. I literally just finished it 2 days ago. I don't regret a single hour. Although, admittedly, there are a few criticisms I'll just tell you the major ones. Number one, the camera. Every once in a while, the camera gets stuck in a wall, especially if you're in one of the optional super boss fights. It's something that happens in most of these games, including Dark Souls. So I'm not going to hold them too much to task about it. But it is true that sometimes the camera gets stuck, you get screwed over. That's number one. Number two, I will definitely say this. The content is great, but the pacing's a little off. I do feel like the first third of the game seems a little slow. There's a reason for it story-wise, and I'm not going to spoil. But basically, after you do the first third of the game picks up in a big way, and you're kind of like, why the hell weren't we doing this interesting stuff the first third of the game? Right? Where was this cool stuff for the last 15, 20 hours? Why are we doing it now? I wish we were doing it before. And the one other major criticism that I have, all right, is that basically there is a large open side content area, but it's not really opened until the very end of the game. Problem is, by the time you do it, all right, you really don't need the stuff in it anymore because you're at the end of the game. So if that had been like the middle of the game and now you're doing optional stuff and you're getting good boosts to your abilities or upgrades to stuff, that would make more sense. But sadly, they put it at the tail end of the game, and at being at the tail end of the game, you don't really get to make use of much of the things that you get in that open world area. And I like it. I did it. It was like 5-6 hours long, and I really enjoyed it. But I was like, man, it kind of felt like a waste of time to do it because then the game ended. Okay? So it's not perfect. But at the same time, it's definitely an outstanding game. I absolutely loved it. I like God of War Ragnarok more than God of War 2018. And that's saying something because God of War 2018 was my favorite game that year. Okay? So that's my first top 3 game. My second top 3 game for 2022 is Elden Ring. So all of you out there who are Elden Ringers, everyone raise your arms above your heads and do the Elden Ring pose right now. Collectively, we all must do it. For I am also an Elden Ringer, along with all of you. Let's do it. All right? If you needed any more evidence that I love Elden Ring, this is the longest playthrough I did this year and one of the longest playthroughs I've ever done. It clocked in at over 100 hours of gameplay. I fully explored every nook and cranny of this game. I did every optional dungeon. I fought every super boss, except I didn't do all of the repetitive optional grinding dungeons. Like, for example, they're called the graves, I think, like the heroes' graves. And I also didn't do all those repetitive dungeons that reuse the same assets over and over. They kind of remind me of the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne. I didn't do all of those, only because once you get about halfway through the game, you start to realize this is just meant for extra content. There's nothing really meaningful down there. Maybe every once in a while you get an optional item or whatever, but most of those bosses aren't unique. Once you've seen them once or twice, you've seen them all. You know what I mean? But man, this game is so cool. It's got so many cool, unique environments. It's got awesome bosses. It's got a great platforming. I mean, if you want to talk best in class, this is by far, kind of best in class when it comes to the games From Software has made. It combines elements from every From Software game. You've got the very incredibly challenging gameplay with a parry system now implemented from previous kind of Dark Souls games, but also has elements from Sekiro with the stagger system. You've got the platforming now, which you didn't have in previous, Bloodborne/Soulsborne games, but it's kind of implemented from Sekiro. Now you have the horse, as you can see. You're able to jump and mount and leap and go all over the place, okay? Really awesome, You want to talk about bang for your buck? Elden Ring has bang for your buck. And you know what? Another thing that I'm going to call out and praise that a lot of people kind of shat on, Elden Ring is accessible to both those who are huge fans of the franchise and want Ultimate Challenge, but it's also accessible to those who maybe this is their first FromSoft game because it has those summons, those Ash summons, right? If you didn't have those summons and you had to fight everything by yourself and solo it, perhaps this would be an unbeatable game. But the fact that you can summon these Ash characters to come and be spectral visions that fight with you becomes kind of a crutch for those who still want to experience the game but just don't have that skill or prerequisite knowledge level to do so. That's nice, right? I like that. I like that basically people can beat the game and not have to be a master of FromSoft. You know what I mean? I like the optional gameplay elements of it, like the side quest lines and stories, are quite interesting. Now I'll be honest, it's not perfect. The game definitely has shortcomings. All right, first of all, I do feel that they implemented some gameplay elements that maybe are kind of overpowered. For example, the jumping, slam, heavy attack, R1, whatever you want to call it, is very overpowered. It's basically, is it jump R2? That's what it was. So basically, it's a stagger move. You jump and you do this attack that staggers the enemy. And if you do a build for that, oh my god, it literally will rock the endgame bosses. I was rocking endgame bosses, jump heavy. And that was never previously in the game because there was no jump button before now. So just implementing the jump immediately kind of made the game kind of imbalanced. And I will definitely say my major criticism of the game is thus. The game is insane amounts of quantity and a good amount of quality, but not all the quantity is quality. And what I mean by that is, when I started getting to the final areas of the game, I was kind of like, all right, so now there's snow, but I've seen all this before. Every single enemy, every single boss, we've been there, done that. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like we were being blown away with insanely amounts of unique content at that point. Oh, look at this. Here's a unique boss fight that kicked my ass a million times. And that definitely kind of annoyed me, because here's the thing. With FromSoft games, all right, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, typically most of the content feels like it's curated content. Meaning, yeah, you're kind of on rails. It's not really possible to go too far in open world explore, but when you're on that journey, everything feels special, unique, and specially designed to give you ultimate challenge and fun. In Elden Ring, because there's so much content, it actually feels like a lot of the content is kind of just shoved in there for the sake of having more content. Like I said, a lot of those optional dungeons are a complete waste of time and don't really need to be in the game. And I actually feel like, again, the final third of the game, you kind of feel like you've almost seen everything in the game already. And that's not good. Like, you shouldn't stop feeling like there's fun, unique stuff when you're in the final third of the game. It should be the opposite, right? And in fact, the entire final third of the game for me wasn't really fun until, oh, look at this now. Another boss. Wasn't really fun until I basically got to the final slew of bosses that are unique. But basically, it's kind of like, I feel like there was too much content. And if they actually scaled down on the amount of content in Elden Ring, the game might have been better. If it had more of what they called legacy dungeons and less of the optional dungeons, I think the game would have been a lot more fun and better. But it is what it is. They did what they wanted to do. The game is still an exceptional value. The game, you know, it's gonna please everyone who ever liked FromSoft. What it is, the epitome of what FromSoft has ever done. They've combined all the elements of all their games into one super game, and that's exactly what Elden Ring was. But admittedly, you're gonna say when you play the game, yeah, that's a bonfire. Yeah, that's one of the crystal bugs. Yeah, and of course, that's not what it is in the game, but you kind of understand that's what it's meant to be. You see what I mean? So, great game. Longest playthrough I did all year. Loved almost every minute of it. And, you know, I think it's a game that's going to resonate with people. People are absolutely dying for DLC, obviously. I am too. I can't wait for a DLC. And I'm still waiting for you guys to tell me when you want my New Game Plus run, because I've been waiting a long time, but you guys don't want it, apparently. I'll do New Game Plus if you want, okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the final game in my top 3 games of 2022. Yes, you guys knew I was going to pick it. It is Stray. Stray is an incredibly unique gameplay experience like no other. All right? I absolutely love this game. It's made by an indie studio. It's fun. It has interesting gameplay elements that I really haven't experienced in other games before. You're a cat, and you're doing platforming, but you're also solving puzzles. You're exploring. You are doing cool things in a unique environment. You're trying to survive, okay? You are... Man, this game is... Look at this. Look, have you ever said you play a game that looks like this before? Now, the sad part is I'm dying here. And maybe I picked a bad clip. But absolutely, positively, I love this game. It's colorful. The world design is unique. It has a great post-apocalyptic plot where there's no humans anymore. And you're trying to figure out what happened. Why are there no humans? Where did they all go? Why are there only these robots and androids left behind, right? You're a cat separated from your family, and all you're trying to do is survive. But as the game continues on, you become a critical part of this universe because only a cat can seem to sneak into the places that you need to go to get these certain elements and solve puzzles and get these answers for the androids that are alive. This game, seriously, one of the best written games ever, in my opinion, and I actually felt incredibly emotional at the end. All right, I loved it. I loved every moment I was playing Stray. I thought it was cinematic. It was fun. It was well designed. It looked great. It played well. Like, I have very few things to complain about in this game at all. I just enjoyed every moment of it. If anything, it was too short. I wanted more. And because it was an indie studio that made it, you know, you didn't get as much of it as you wanted. All right? But man, I absolutely, positively loved this game and every moment of it. All right? But ladies and gentlemen, I do have an admission to make. This is my number 3 favorite game of the year. I just wanted to get that out of the way. It didn't make top 2. Stray is great. It's unique. It's colorful. It's fun. It's great writing. It's great puzzles. It's a unique game. I've never experienced a game like it before, but it's my number 3 favorite. It didn't make the top 2, all right? I can't really say that this game is better than either Elden Ring or God of War Ragnarok. It's definitely not, in my opinion. It's just a game that really resonated with me. I mean, I own a cat. He's a friend of the family, or he's a part of the family, I should say. And to have a game based on cats and having those elements to it, being the first game I've ever played with like an animal like this in control and having such uniqueness and fun in it, man, it was such a great game. I absolutely love this game. I recommend it. If you haven't played it yet, you definitely should. But it's definitely not top 2, okay? All right, guys, it's time. No matter what I pick for my favorite game of the year, I want you to understand that I respect your decisions, okay? So, people are pressuring me right now. People are pressuring me in the chat. I'm not kidding. People right now in the chat are being incredibly rude. They're like, are you going to pick this game that I want to win game of the year? Or are you going to completely screw up and ruin everything? It's like, geez, it's like either I pick a certain game or like I beat up the Easter Bunny or something. You know, I slapped Santa in the face. Come on, man. Okay, so there's only 2, Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok, all right? So allow me to give you my thought process on this. Here's my thought process. My thought process is that God of War Ragnarok is just the better game. That's my thought process. Ladies and gentlemen, my pick for Game of the Year 2022 is God of War Ragnarok, okay? Why? There's actually one factor. It's actually only one simple factor that made me determine this, okay? Let me actually fast forward a little bit here. And here's the factor. Is it the gameplay? No. Is it the graphics? No. Soundtrack? No. Length of the game? No. Responsiveness of controls? No. Do you want to know what did it for me? The story. I love Elden Ring. I played it more than any other game in 2022. I love the gameplay of it. But gameplay is one aspect, and I feel that Elden Ring is a game that focuses on gameplay, and it tries to make the best FromSoft gameplay you've ever experienced. I actually think it succeeds. But gameplay is only one factor. For me, I like a game that's the complete package. I feel like God of War Ragnarok is the complete package. It's the game that has every great element that I'm looking for in a superior game. If Elden Ring had a better story, I probably would have liked it more. But let's face it, does it matter what ending you pick in Elden Ring? Of course it doesn't. You could have the Dookie man sitting on the poopy throne, or you could have the Golden Order, doing their golden onion rings above their head. It doesn't matter what you pick because the plot takes a backseat to the gameplay. And that's fine. If you're the kind of person that absolutely, positively focuses on gameplay, you probably like Elden Ring more than God of War Ragnarok, all right? But for me, I want the game that's the absolute positive complete package, and I feel that God of War Ragnarok did that for me. So, guys, that's a 2P. God of War 2018, God of War Ragnarok in 2022, that's 2 in a row that Sony Santa Monica has won my Game of the Year awards. Can they 3P? Can whatever game they come out with next, which I'm assuming will be the next God of War game, will that again be my next pick for Game of the Year? I don't know. I'm interested. I'm very interested to see. But man, I love God of War Ragnarok. I'm super happy. And by the way, the playthrough just ended. If anyone wanted to see basically kind of almost a completionist run of the game, the only thing I didn't do was one of the repetitive, like, grindy Muspelheim trials. But I did every super boss, everything in it. Give it a look. Enjoy the game. Check it out if you didn't. God of War Ragnarok, Game of the Year for 2022. And if you disagree, it's only because you're wrong. Of course, I'm kidding. Everyone has a right to like what they like and dislike what they don't like. But thank you guys for watching. Every year, I love doing my year-end series. I hope that you enjoy. This year, things certainly looked a lot different, didn't they? Right? Wow, what a different setup. It looks way more professional now. I hope you enjoyed my Game of the Year countdown. Hey, check out the most disappointing games countdown, which is a separate video if you haven't seen it yet. Be sure to leave comments. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'm all ears. I want to hear what you have to say. And once again, Happy New Year. It's 2023. We've now headed into a new year. New games are about to hit. I'm excited for them. I know that you guys are too. Thank you all for watching my year-end series. Until next time, this is DSP signing off. And let's have a great 2023. Peace out, everybody.